All right, am I in the screen as well? Okay, so thank you guys for being back. We are with Dr. Garner today, and he is going to talk about transposing and transposition from your primary instrument when you're in a band rehearsal, how you can play along with other instruments. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But the reason it's called Persisting with Transposition is Band Directors Talk Shop Commission to Work. It was written by B.J. Brooks, who is the composition teacher here at West Texas A&M University. And it's a grade 2, and it was written in memory of Marcy Zafuto. And the reason it was called Persist is what we're going to talk about. And we just want to take a few minutes to kind of pass on the legacy of Miss Zafuto and let you know about the piece. Everyone that's registered for this workshop, if you haven't already been able to download the free version, I'm going to email it out right after this workshop's over, sometime in the next week. You'll get a free copy of the score, all the parts, and there's a flex version as well. So we hope you'll be able to play with your band. And we hope when you do, you'll talk with them a little bit about Ms. Zafuto and how her life and her legacy as a band director. But Dr. Garner has known Ms. Zafuto, I'm assuming, since she was a little baby. Yeah. And so he's going to tell us a story or two about her, talk about her a little bit, talk about Persist, and then we'll get going on the transposition.
Well, I'll try to keep it fairly brief. It's not easy for me to talk about. I did know her from birth. Her father, J.R. McIntyre, I think I mentioned this in Director's Band yesterday or day before, was one of my best friends in life. And I've known very few people that I've admired even remotely as much as J.R. He was an incredibly good band director. And you talk about persistence, he would not let anything go until he got what he wanted. So Marcy came by quite naturally. Her actual name was Marcia Ruth McIntyre was her maiden name. And we were fortunate enough, I taught her, they lived, of course, in Odessa, and we were here in Canyon, and she would come up for a flute lesson from time to time. And it's clear that she was incredibly talented and highly disciplined and devoted and determined. And happily for us, she chose to come to school here. So I had her as, I don't know if she started off, but it wasn't long at least, but she was first chair in the band and was along with some very good flute players. She was also a twirler. She was later runner-up for Miss Texas. Beautiful girl. Her talent was playing the flute, by the way. One thing she was determined not to be, and she was unequivocal about this, band directing, forget it. No way. I mean, she was adamant about that. Well, so, and she married, I didn't approve of this, not that it was my place to approve or disapprove. She married a football player from Pennsylvania. But it turned out after I got to know him, I heartily approved. Marcy and her husband, Mike Zafuto, babysat for us quite a bit, and they were wonderful. But no way she was going to be a band director. They were in Kansas, and I think for economic purposes, she finally reluctantly decided, okay, and discovered, if maybe to her surprise, but nobody else's, she was really good at it. And she loved it. And later on, her last job was at Coyle Middle School in Garland. And I had the great good fortune of going down there at least once, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year, and helping her out. Not that she needed much help, but the greatest pleasure in that was watching her in front of her kids. And she used this phrase a lot, persistently insistent. And let me tell you, my friends, she was nothing but that all the time, without exception. And if she was determined the kids were going to do whatever, she would stick with it until it happened. She was totally unrelenting. She was honor band, they were honor band at Coyle, I think maybe a couple of times. They performed at Midwest. This was absolutely an incredible band. She was an incredible person. And she left us way too soon. But at the same time, she did leave a wonderful legacy. Is that enough?
Yes, that's great. So again, we just kind of want to share the reason that we're doing those commissions is not just to share great work, of course, and give you music to play with your students, but to also let students know about band directing, what a great profession it is, and let them know about some of the band directors that we admire here at West Texas A&M. If you have a primary instrument, grab it. We have a couple online who are like cellists and things like that from around the country. They may be teaching band, choir, and orchestra or whatever. So if you have any instrument that you can grab to do transposition with would be great. The handout, I've posted the link. And then here in a little bit, I may talk about the rhythmic ensembles, but we can do that when we get to that part.
Okay. Well, I understand we are here to talk about transposition. It's a two-way street. We need to be able to look at any full score, at any part in any full score, and immediately know what the concert pitch is. We only have to worry about 3 transpositions. Truth be told, probably only 2 when we're talking about concert pitch. The B flat instruments and the F instruments. If we can read treble clef, we're cool with the C instruments, treble clef instruments. If we can read bass clef, no problem with all of the euphonium, trombone, tuba parts. And as a matter of fact, if we can read bass clef, we're cool with the E flat parts. Just read it in bass clef. Now you do have to account for whatever the key signature might be. So we really pretty much only have to worry about those 2 clefs. And we also need to be able to do the reverse. We need to be able to look at a C score where the parts are not transposed and immediately see whatever note is on the horn part. We need to see that in its transposed pitch, or the baritone saxophone part, or whatever it might happen to be. So we need to be able to make that two-way conversion, and ideally it needs to be instant. Then I think also ideally we ought to be able to play our instruments along with the kids. I think there are a couple of things here. If I'm playing along, trying to help Travis with his parts, and this happened so many times. So I've got a flute, he's got a saxophone. I don't know what he's doing with that bari sax. I always do it as an alto sax player. But so if we're playing along and he makes a mistake in rhythm or plays the wrong note, assuming I'm right, it's immediately obvious. And by the same time, he can hear what the rhythm ought to be, what the right notes are, what the style ought to be. So that's one thing. And you know, there's another subliminal message. Fortunately, this is not the case anymore. But in my early teaching career, this was quite common. Band directors would graduate from college. They'd put their instruments in a case. They'd put the case in the closet. It would never see the light of day again. Now, what kind of subliminal message do you think that's sending the students? Well, hey, playing in band is great fun. You'll love playing an instrument. Of course, I don't do it anymore. No, this is a lifelong thing. I'll tell you the truth. I still practice a couple of hours every day, and I love it. And your kids need to know that. So that's another thing. And suppose, what is going to be the most meaningful thing? Okay, I'm going to explain how this phrase ought to be played, but the articulation is how it ought to be shaped. Or you want to go, I've told him a bunch of stuff right there. Oh, that's what you want. Now, I think that needs to be supplemented verbally. Okay, we want you, this is the peak of the phrase right here. Here's how we want it to stop. Here's how we want it to end. But there is no substitute for, do you really want to be taught something explained to you musically? No, I want this articulation. Doesn't that mean a lot more than, no, keep it shorter, do this, do that, the other. Okay, so that's the end of that. Then, there are 2 types of transposition. I'm sure most of what's going to be said here today is old news to you, but just in case. 2 types of transposition. There's transposition by interval and transposition by clef. Transposing by intervals of a second or third is not too bad. Just read up a line or a space if it's a second, or a line up to a line, or from a space up to the next space, a third higher, and bass or treble clef, it's doable. Which brings up a very personal story from my own experience. When I was a junior high band director in a place called Lubbock, Texas, I kept a flute and a clarinet and a cornet. We didn't use trumpets in those days at all, cornet. And I could do fairly well at that time on a cornet. Don't ask me to play one now. But I kept them all three on my stand, and I used them all in rehearsal. Well, heck, I could transpose those B-flat parts on my flute without any problem at all. Just play it down instead. I could play the E-flat parts, just read it in bass clef, no problem. Horn parts on my flute, forget that. Well, I could do it, but only if it was whole notes at a tempo no faster than 60. Right. That's true. My gosh, you've got to play a fourth up or fifth down. That takes a lot of mental calculation, which I'm not very fast at. But I could play the euphonium and all the bass clef parts on my cornet, okay. I mean, it's like playing a euphonium. And since I could do that on the cornet, I could do it on the clarinet, same deal. I think I mentioned rehearsal. I'm very slow learner, and this is a good example. One day, after a while, quite a while, whoa, wait a minute. Playing an E-flat part on my clarinet, B-flat up to E-flat, it's a fourth, wow. Flute, C up to horn, F, a fourth. I went from not being able to do that at all to being able to do it great in one instant. It's the same thing. And what happened was I was transposing by clef. So, that's a soprano clef in this case. Transposition for a horn now, and for many, many years for me, is almost as easy as just reading a C part. And it all came back there from playing those bass clef parts on my clarinet or cornet. So I think the way it works like this, if you're not really, anybody not terribly expert at it, try to figure out a way to transpose a second or a third, and it may be you'll be using treble clef or bass clef onto the other, depending on the circumstances. And then after you do that enough, and when that G on the horn part starts to look to us flute players like a C, you look at that and you don't see a G, you see a C. That's when you're transposing by clef. But it takes a while to do that, to be sure. So we've got 7 clefs here. You may recognize this, not very well drawn, but this is middle C. So what clef is this? Huh?
Soprano.
Soprano clef?
Alto. Tenor.
Yeah, you're way ahead of me. Now, whether or not you know those names is not a terribly big deal, but let's see if we can find a way to transpose something. If you see this thing, John Kiss Me Now, in your handout, when Hammery contacted me about doing this, I remembered having done some stuff like this for the conducting class many years ago. This is the only one I could find, but it was just enough. This is from the William Byrd suite. Malcolm Arnold. So what I did, this is again the conducting class. You see the first 8 measures here. This is the E-flat clarinet part. And then what do we have? Trombone after that, then it goes to clarinet and on down the line. So what they had to do was just go through this thing with their instrument, whatever it was. You get down here to the trombone part. We have my glasses. Aha, clarinet. And so on. Where's the horn part? Yeah, a few lines down, no problem. So being able to do that on your instrument is worth $1 million. But let's first of all consider the first half of the equation. Let's just talk about the concert pitches. So could we go down the line and just name concert pitches here, all together in unison as I point to you? The first note in concert pitch is, I'm sorry, one other thing. We have to be sure we determine what the key signature is. The E flat instruments, E flat clarinet in this case, this is a simplistic way to look at it. I think it might have been the first way it was explained to me. They have three flats built in. Old Travis over here has three flats built into that very sax. So we have to take that into account in playing an E flat part by adding three flats or subtracting three sharps. So the E flat here has two sharps. We can only subtract two. We got one more to go. So what do you do? We add a flat. Are you with me okay? Everybody's cool with this? Okay, so we know we're in the key of F. The first note?
F, G, A, F, B
What key are you reading? I mean, what clef are you reading that in?
Bass clef.
Just read it in bass clef. That's easy stuff, isn't it? All right, let's skip on down. Do we even need to do the trombone? If we can read bass clef, we ought to be cool with that, and we're assuming that everybody in the room is perfectly fluent in both clefs. Now, we've got a cornet part down here at the beginning of the third line. We're still in the key of F, obviously, and the notes are
F, G,
A.
F, G, A.
Why are you here? You're too good at this. We need somebody that's not nearly that good. I'm being only a little bit facetious. That's wonderful. Why don't we skip down to the horn part in the fifth line here? Ready?
F, G, A, F, B flat, F, G, A, F, C.
Good. I think everybody is on the way to making an A in the chorus here. Any questions so far? Need we go further with this?
Tell me the trick for horn.
I beg your pardon?
Tell me the trick for horn. Like, I know a couple notes in horn, but when I start reading the whole thing, I get lost.
Okay.
How do you think of horn for concert?
Well, the trick for any instrument is, let's look at the horn part. That we know that's a concert F. Which would, this first note of the fifth line, he's got a written C, that's a concert F. In which clef would you find the closest F to that note? Bass or treble?
Bass.
It'd be bass clef. Up a step from that note on the first ledger line below the staff. It's just one note above that. A second above that would be F in bass clef, right? So here we can think of this in bass clef and just transpose everything up a step.
Do you have a pencil?
Does that make sense?
Light
Yeah.
bulbs.
Yes.
Right here. Two
We're
of them.
both like,
Okay.
What?
totally.
Light bulbs.
Mind's blown over here.
I've never experienced that before. I kind of like that.
Bass clef. So you look at it as bass clef,
Up a step.
and concert pitch is up a step from
Yeah.
what you're looking at.
Now, you really don't have to worry about, oh, okay, this is mezzo soprano clef. It is, but you know, whether you know that or not is pretty much beside the point. It's a little more difficult if you're left-handed, I do admit. Yeah. Whoa, what does that say? The
For sure.
Habanero?
Oh, Saudi
Ab
Arabia.
cake. I used to live in Saudi Arabia.
really?
Yeah, just moved back a year ago.
She went to Lee. Have y'all
Yeah.
reconnected?
Oh, well, we've
She
had
went to
some
Lee.
contact
Yeah,
before.
we did. Yeah, yeah.
You weren't Singletary then?
No, it was Richardson.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long were you in Saudi Arabia?
Eight and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you and MBS pretty good friends?
No, I wish.
No,
But that's
you don't.
probably a good thing because I might have been in
Yeah, that's right.
Ritzkatran last year.
We might be talking about the late Taffy.
Ritzkatraz, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave politics alone. All right, are we okay on this whole horn transposition thing? All righty then. Let's imagine now, so what we've done is, would apply to a C instrument, flute, oboe, or bass clef instrument. Be the same pitches. Let's pretend we have a B flat instrument of some kind. Perhaps a clarinet, a cornet, tenor saxophone even, maybe bass clarinet. And now we've got to transpose this up to our instruments part, B flat instruments part. So what is our key signature going to be on a B flat instrument? We have two flats built in. So how do we account for the two sharps in the E flat instrument part? They got one more flat built in than we do. We add a flat or we subtract a sharp. So in this case, we're going to subtract a sharp. What key are we in? G. Okay, on our B flat instrument, we know his first note, the E flat clarinet, or maybe hers, is a concert F. What is concert F for us on our B flat instrument?
G.
G, okay. Which clef, treble or bass, is the closest G to that written D for the E flat part? Bass clef. So what are we going to do? Read it up a step. Okay, we're a B flat player. The first note is G, A, B, G, C. Okay, well, that's not quite as confident as the earlier one, but I think are we okay with the B flat instrument part now? Well, for the E flat transposition. Now, our next one is trombone. Now, we know the trombone is playing a concert C here, obviously. What is the closest note to that first ledger line above the staff in either treble or bass clef? That would be the D on our B flat instrument. Bass or treble? Treble. Don't think so.
Well, I'm thinking the other end of the spectrum.
Well, wouldn't one note higher than that be in a bass clef? Wouldn't that be our D? So we read everything up a step here on our B flat instrument. Let's name the trombone notes. Go. D, D, E, F. Now, here's the other thing. The flats and the accidentals don't always translate literally. Sometimes a natural will become a flat. Sometimes it'll become a sharp or vice versa. So here he has a flat written, but for us now, we have to think in terms of raising accidentals and lowering accidentals. Okay, he's got a lowering accidental, so our F sharp is not F sharp, it's an F natural now.
Yeah.
Please let me know if you need clarification on anything if I'm going too fast. Are we okay with that? You telling me the truth? I see a lot of kind of uncertain looks.
Can you just tell us what measure you're in, just to make sure?
Oh yeah, these measures are numbered. We're in measure, oh, heck, these are too small. What is that, a 6?
9.
Oh, well, it's a 6 upside down. Okay. So it's that written E flat. We're playing everything up a step in bass clef. Be all right? So that, let's start there. It's going to be F natural. What's the next note? G, E, C. Are we good? Okay. Whoa, we got a B natural coming up, so that must be C natural, right?
C sharp.
What? Yeah. So as I said, the accidentals don't always transfer exactly the same. Sure, it's a raising accidental. So for us, a raising accidental on our B flat instrument would be a C sharp. I'm wondering if I were sitting out there and didn't know this stuff, would I understand what this dummy up here is saying? I'm not sure. But you're all a lot smarter than I am. You get it, right? Emily? Okay. So, let's see. We don't have to worry about the cornet because it's in the same key as we are on our B flat instrument. Here's euphonium. We've already done a little bass clef with the trombone. Then it goes over to clarinet. No sweat. We're on a B flat. Uh-oh! Here's that cussed horn again. So he's playing his concert F. What's a concert F on our B flat instrument?
G.
What clef, treble, or bass would you find the closest G? Be bass clef up a third, wouldn't it? Okay, so now we're playing the horn part on our B flat instrument. Our first note is G,
A, B, G, C.
okay, a little hesitation, that's okay. G, A, B, C,
D.
all right. We okay? All right, what do we got ahead here? Alto sax, well, it's the exact same procedure as playing a bass clef instrument, except we have to allow for the key signature and whatever accidentals may occur. So we're reading this as if it were a bass clef instrument, which means that what is that first concert pitch for the alto sax anyway? Okay, good. And our closest F is right there in a bass clef. Just read it like it is, right? F, A, B flat, A, D, C. Everybody good?
On I'm sorry. I thought with E flat clarinet, I thought you said it was bass clef up a step. With E flat clarinet, wouldn't alto sax
Oh, what
be
we're
the
playing
same?
on a B flat instrument.
Right, but then on E flat alto saxophone, why wouldn't it be the same?
Because we're on a B flat instrument.
Yeah, of course. Well, we have a concert F here. Yeah, it's up a step. What am I saying? I'm sorry. Forget everything I just said.
Concert.
Okay, it's the same as E flat.
Yes.
Clarinet,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
I was thinking concert pitch, naughty me, please forgive me. Can we still be friends? Somebody said, you thought we were friends? Okay. Yeah, up a step. Thank you,
Okay.
Tamara. All right. G, B, C, D, E, D, C, B, C. Okay, now I think we have done all of the transpositions, haven't we? Why don't we do this? Could we all play the first two measures on our instrument, making whatever the proper transposition for you might be? Let's hear that everybody just play the first note, would you? Concert it. 1 to 2 day 1. Hey man, we're ready for contest. Maybe we ought to go ahead and finish this whole thing out till we get to the trombone. I wish I would, now please be honest with me. Were you cool with all that? You fully understand it? No question about it? Oh, got a thumbs up. That's great. That's 1 out of 20. 2! Okay, good. Everything's good. All right, well, of course Kelly did that. She just played it in bass clef and went flat. All righty. Now, we've got the trombone part coming up. Let's hear your first note. And, well, do you know what clef you're going to read it in? Okay, first note. Heck, let's just go for it. Today, ready? Go. Oh yeah, okay, and that's a different one. At some point, if there's time, there may not be. I would love to do this from the very beginning and just go straight through and have everybody on their honor drop out when they make a mistake and see who wins. Okay? Are you ready to go for the cornet part now? Yes. Today, ready? Go. Okay, gonna get slightly more technical. We're back in bass clef. Today, ready, and up. Oh, yeah, okay. So in doubt, follow the tuba players or the trombone. Okay, they're right at home here. You want to do that again or not?
Yes, again.
Okay, today, ready, there you go. Okay, little improvisation and the trumpet back there, but the trumpet players, we understand. Okay, is that Mr. Keeler? What do you say? Go ahead? All righty. So, I've lost my place. Where are we?
We're at 22.
We're-
Clarinet.
Yeah, clarinet.
Oh, so we are. Do we need to talk about it or just do it?
Just do it.
Today, ready, go. Somebody needs to reconsider that second note. It's a lowering accidental in this case. Okay, ready? I never count off except when I'm going to play. You have no choice there. Today, ready? Go. Good. Okay, here we go. And we get to play a little one. Everybody sure your first note? Let's hear the first note. Go. Well, you are sure. Hey, ready? Who all is playing in treble clef here? Who's playing bass clef? Okay, ready? Take, go. guys. How many, if any, or would even admit to it, that that's the first time you ever played transposed an F part on your instrument? A few. Yeah, good. What do you think? Was that harder than you thought or easier?
No, it was easier because I'm used to transposing. I can do it from the B flat instrument just fine. So
Oh, sure,
it's-
just played up step,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Way easier than trying to figure it out and go. It's an,
Oh, yeah. No, as I said before, that story I told you is 100% truthful. It took me forever to finally penetrate my thick skull that, wait a minute, playing a horn part on a flute is the same thing as playing an E-flat part on my clarinet or cornet. Same deal. I could do one but not the other at all until I had that epiphany. We've covered everything, haven't we?
Can I clarify? So, as a clarinet player or a trumpet player, if I get really good at reading bass clef up a step, I
Yeah.
can read horn and concert pitch, and I can read E flat and bass clef on my instrument.
Sure,
And then all I have to do is learn to go up a third,
Yeah.
and I've got horn, and then that's it.
you're covered. Well, what key? I mean, we don't have any D trumpets in band. We don't have any A clarinets. We don't have any alto flutes. We've got C instruments, B flat instruments, F instruments, E flat instruments. That's it. So 3 is the most transpositions anybody would have to do.
Okay.
Right? Okay, I just needed to verify that.
I'm just saying.
Are you ready for the contest?
Yes.
Are you ready?
I can't see.
I see a little pain being expressed up here on the front row. Yeah.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
For those of us that actually age, unlike you, I can't see
I
the
can't
music.
read what instrument it is.
Yeah.
Well, I have a hard time because my glasses are bifocal, and a lot of I can't read it. It's not that.
We need to take a vote on that excuse. How many of you are prepared to accept that excuse? Kevin, well, maybe we ought to go right. No, we give you a pass on. Yeah, we give you a total pass.
I'm being facetious.
And I do have to admit, I have seen this before, but let's just go for it and see what happens, okay?
And we drop out when we mess up.
Yes, you're on your honor to drop out when you mess up. And you know, I like that technique. We used to, for a long time in a symphonic band, some of you may have been there, we had this little scale routine that I had them do. We go through the whole entire circle of fourths that way, playing the major scale, then the relative minor, going down the third, relative major, till we went through the whole circle of fifths. And on every Friday, then we would do that and get faster and faster. And everybody, they're on their honor to drop out when they made a mistake. And sometimes it's really exciting. You know, we're finally in a... And one of our oboe players, the sainted Janie Baird, came up with this beautiful scroll of honor. We posted up on the bulletin board, and whoever won that week got their name up there, and more than that, a free Snickers bar at my personal expense. That sounds very junior high or even lower than that. I was astounded at how they locked onto that. What a big deal that became. And the first winner, the first name up on the scroll of honor, was a bassoon player, Robbie Rumpf. I saw him the other day for the first time in years. He's had to undergo some pretty serious health issues, but he's doing way better, I'm happy to say. Okay, I can't resist it. Later on, I changed it. It seems to me this has nothing to do with transposition. The keys to developing technical fluency on a wind instrument, it doesn't end here, but I think this is the foundation. Being able to play all the major scales, not the minor scales so much, because minor scales are exactly like every tetrachord of a minor scale exists in a major scale, except the augmented second and the harmonic minor. That's not a big deal. So I quit worrying about the minors, but I wanted them to be able to play the major arpeggios, the minor arpeggios, the dominant sevenths, and the diminished sevenths. So we're going, and I wanted them to do down, press, up. So We're going with the down press up. Now, at the very end, Don Lefevre has wisely added this. So I think that the chromatic scale is sort of the wellspring of all technical development. It's certainly not the end of it, but it's got to begin there. And sorry, I started to go on about this. We need to get back to the business at hand. How's our time, Tamarine?
You're doing fine. You're 2:05, but I just typed in the chat if you ever want to give your students an example of someone who practices every day and loves his instrument and can outplay pretty much anybody after many years. Dr. Garner's a great example of that.
I'm not really the flute player I used to be. In fact, I've made the mistake of listening to some of my old recital stuff. I thought, ooh, I wish I could still do that. I still do okay. And I still love it as much as ever. And it's a rare when I don't get at least 2 hours a day in, but you know, you guys are not in a business, you got a full-time job. So far, I've had no takers on my new career venture here. I announced at the meeting the other night that I'd lost a career in insurance, and I wanted to talk to everybody about their soon-to-expire car insurance. Nobody took me up on it. No, there's no substitute for this. I mean, it doesn't have to be a flute. I made way more money in my life playing a saxophone than I ever thought of making in a flute. And I still do practice some saxophone and clarinet, and I still love doing it. But flute is what I do. I've always said, that's what I want on my gravestone. Here lies Gary Garner. He played the flute. Because that's where I see myself at my very core. That's not what we're here to talk about. Please make me talk about something else. Maybe even transposition. All right.
So after we do the contest, I want to make sure we get to the ensembles. That's the only reason I want to make sure we get going.
All right, contest. Here we go. 1, 2, day, 1, day, 2, day. Ready? Go. What is it? Oh, wow. I missed one way back here because I misread what the instrument is. Kelly Mallory Montgomery is the winner.
So I went to the bookstore yesterday and I love these WT mechanical pencils. So she gets that. And Travis was like a pretty strong second. So he gets an old fashioned one.
Wow.
Well, I cheated though because I was doing it intervallically, not with clef. So that's,
Hey, intervallically, that's fine.
but it only works on my instrument. So if I picked up a clarinet, I wouldn't be able to.
Well, that's pretty good you got. Where'd you go to school anyway? Maybe you can guess why I asked the question. Well, now I talk about the
You can?
stuff.
Go for
Are
it.
you?
Well, I want to tell them where to find it.
Please.
Let me tell them where to find it, then you can explain how it came about. So If you have not heard of, we called it the Garner Ensemble Project. We have a very small percentage of what he has actually arranged on the website. He's arranged a lot. He may tell you the number, but we have just a handful that we put out last year as set 1, and then this year is set 2. They're all free to download all the parts. Jordan Freeman yesterday, those were the examples he was showing you of the duettinos, but there's duets, trios, quartets. If you go to, I would just Google Garner, is it rhythmic? Garner, do Garner, that word. I can't say it. Project. I was thinking, they're called rhythmic ensembles, but I think you'll find it either way. And then you can also find it on the website under resources, go down, and there's now a new link to take you to set 2. And there's like 4, 5, 8 of each new one, I think. I don't know. Honestly, I didn't do it. But
I think 4.
So he can explain a little bit of how that came about and how to use the duettinos. I think I put an example.
Okay.
I hope of a duettino. Did I?
Let me begin by saying I'm a very sick person
Yeah.
with a lot of spare time. I think this is probably inspired by the fact that, for me at least, and a few other people of my acquaintance, there are not many things more fun than playing duets. And I wish that opinion were shared more widely. Some years back, I devoted our entire music budget to buying a bunch of duet books and having them put in the library, and really promoted this with the band members. And it got, I don't know, very little traction, which was quite disappointing. But I love to play duets. And, you know, little ensemble trios, quartets, whatever, I think it's great. Another thing is, help students develop musical independence. The saddest words to me as a band director is, how does it go? Go figure it out for yourself. We're trying to develop some independent musicians here. This is a little bit aside, but one of the things I really hate about the way band is working at contests in this state is, I can remember when sight reading meant reading at sight. That is long gone. All the stuff you go through now, and all the rules, you have to have a lawyer standing back. Okay, beside you. Now you can do this for 2 minutes, but you can't do that. Okay, now you can do this. And you get to study the score for so much time before you even go in this. It's idiotic. This is not sight reading. I feel better, thank you. So besides the fun that comes from it and the development of ensemble skills, it does promote your reading ability enormously. Well, as I said, I kind of with that in mind, I started putting together these little duets and trios and quartets and what I call duettinos. The way the duettinos work, it takes a single line. And so we're all, everybody, 2 players or the whole band, or any combination, plays the whole tune. We learn that. And then it's divided up in various ways. So part A will go, part B, you know, stuff like that. So they really have to in my experience, and I'm sure in your experience as well, the greatest number of rhythmic errors comes in failure to enter at the proper time following rests. And so this is the whole idea. They have to develop a little independence and learn how to count rests accurately, and come in at the right time after rest. So that's the whole idea. There's a duettino in
We
here.
can start with that one, yeah. In the Hall of the Mountain King is in there.
Oh, yeah, Jordan Freeman. Yeah, it's the very last thing on here. Jordan Freeman, this is in bass clef. Well, you got them all on here, haven't you?
Yes, so they can pick whichever clef
Yeah,
they want.
okay, you don't have to transpose, that's good news. Jordan Freeman at Nimitz Junior High, at middle school, in Odessa, told me the night of the camp director meeting, said my kids love all of the Mountain King more than anything. Now, I've started doing these a little differently. As you see, here's the tune, and then it shows part A and part B. a couple of former students, friends, Michael Roberts and Annette Mitchell, told me that they thought it would be better if it were written as a duet with both parts together. So I've changed all the old ones. Doesn't look like this anymore. And it looks like it's just a regular duet now, both parts on the same part. So I don't know. Let's play through it.
So pick a page that you want to work on transposing that instrument. So
Yeah,
like I'm
you
not
got
going
'em
to
all.
play the clarinet part. I'm going to play the flute part if I can find it. Yeah.
I at first started doing original little stuff, but a composer, I make no pretense of that. But here is the other thing. It finally hit me. I've done, here I said I was a sick person. You'll understand why. I've done about 1,400 of these things now, all combined. We're talking overkill in the extreme. But it's fun to do, and I found these two great websites. One is called MSLIP, International Music Library Project, where every piece in the world ever written by a respectable composer that is in public domain is on there. So I've used that a lot. But then I came across another one called MuseScore, M-U-S-E Score. And you have to pay a little bit for it, it's not too much. But not only can you get all that stuff, it'll even play it for you. And you can also download, and I use Finale. You just download an XML file that goes right to your Finale, and you can do whatever editing you want to. So I use that a lot. And it's fun to do. And the other thing is, this can't be a bad thing, it seems to me. Let's introduce our students to some really great composers. Okay, Bach, Mages, Mackey, all those guys, fine. How about a little Beethoven and Mozart and Bach? And more than that, how about a little Marullo and Defesh and people maybe you never heard of, great composers in their day. And maybe this is further indication of my illness. When I do that, Carissimi, I almost feel like I'm communicating those guys from the grave, retracing the thoughts that went through their minds centuries ago when they wrote this. And it's a rather emotional experience. I don't think it would be a bad thing for kids to be exposed to some little tiny bits of their music. I love that. Okay, so we'll do a little Grieg here. You want to let's just do the whole thing first.
We have about 3 minutes, so we won't get to do a whole lot on it.
Okay.
Right, but we're starting at the beginning. We're going to play the whole melody, right?
Yeah.
And then, do we just pick part A or B?
We can arbitrarily, we can maybe brass and woodwinds or men and women or whatever.
So brass play part A?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you know how they are. They would have their feelings hurt if they had to play B. Okay, here we go. Let's play it all. Two, Dave. Ready? Go. Okay, all right,
That
brass.
part A is oh, I see. It's a title. I was thinking it started in that measure. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yep,
no.
we're good.
Okay, brass, you guys play part A, and woodwinds will play part B. Now, here's another way you could go about it. You could have some of the people, maybe you're doing this with 3 people. Somebody could play it straight through, then the others divide it up, and just take turns. Okay, now it's my turn to play part A, now my turn to play part B, whatever. But right now, the brass are going to play, I'm going to play it all, and the brass, and Tamari. But the rest of you, brass, no, the brass are going to play part A, the woodwinds will play part B. Two, Dave, hey, go. I think I did where I had any of them play together. It's only on the last line. You want to, should we go to something else, or should we turn it around? Or
We're
should
out
we
of
go
time.
faster?
We're out
Okay.
of time. Do you want to wrap up?
Oh.
And
Yes, I would simply wrap up by asking, please, what question might you have? I would love to attempt to answer any that I can. Meaning of life, perhaps? There's one word for that. Music. Be honest. Are you going to be any better at this now? You might have been before.
I think I know how to work on it more now. My goal this year, the reason we also called it Persisting with Transposition, is I learned all this in college, but then when I got in front of kids, I didn't want to mess up in front of them. And so this year, I'm going to try to play my clarinet and flute class. I love playing flute. I actually really enjoy flute more than clarinet. So I like playing flute with them, but I'm going to make myself play clarinet more, and if I mess up, I mess up. But that's my goal this year. So I feel like I know how to go home and work on it.
Well, here's, I will say this in conclusion, and this is an analogy I've used many, many times. I'm sure many of you have heard it. This goes with the territory. We're band directors, this is what we do. The analogy is, imagine yourself lying on a surgery table about to have your appendix removed. The doctor walks in with his scalpel in one hand and his Gray's Anatomy in the other, looking under A. Let's see, appendix. Oh, yeah, that'll be about right here. Maybe it's time to get off table and find another doctor. You know, that goes with this territory. Transposition, along with a few million other things, goes with our territory. It is fundamental to what we do, and we need to be absolute experts of it. And that two-way thing of being able to see every transposing instrument in its concert pitch, and know immediately that's this pitch for the horn, this pitch for the B flat instruments, or whatever. And sure, take some practice. With the territory, that's what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, if you guys want to pack up, we're going to try real hard to start at 8
Oh,
minutes.
bye. So good to see you all.
Dr.
Yes.